Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pimps and players, the moment you've all been waiting for has finally arrived. My name's Matthew Farina.
And I'm Trevor Baldwin, and this is the first episode of the Eat the Fruit podcast.
Let me tell you what, Trev, it is good to be here. We are living the dream in sunny Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Hashtag Dirty Duval, hashtag 904.
904.
This is the pilot episode of the Eat the Fruit podcast. It's been a long time coming, and yet here we are, and we're here at WJCT in the studio. Makes us feel official. Makes us feel big time, like we belong in the Big Apple, New York City. We're dreaming big. But, Trev, what's this like for you, dude? Just because this is your first time at the studio, behind the microphone.
It's crazy, man. We started out just with a very basic setup. We had 2 USB microphones back at the crib, and we settled for the professional studio. So I'm just impressed with this really met all my expectations when, I heard this was an actual NPR studio that we're recording in. And I'm super grateful to be here.
And before we move on, I want to give a huge shout out to WJCT because they have been extremely kind in letting us rent their studio to record this first episode. Like Trevor said, originally we had a couple of USB microphones and it was a really good setup, but we just thought that this setup would kind of take it to the next level as far as audio quality goes. And that's what we're all about. We're all about kind of creating stellar content for you guys. And we also have the visual setup as well, which is really important because originally we thought about just doing or publishing our podcasts through SoundCloud, but we wanted to include a visual component as well, just because we thought that would be more entertaining. Right now, we only have one camera, which is recording us, but eventually we hope to have multiple cameras. That way things can be a little more dynamic. We can put one over there and just really create an overall more entertaining experience. But as we begin to jump into things, let's talk about why Eat the Fruit. What's the inspiration behind this podcast? Because kind of contextualizing things for you guys, our listeners, is just kind of so key to getting this ball rolling. And so Eat the Fruit. Trev, in your mind, what's the inspiration behind this podcast? Why did you want to get involved? Because I could have just done this myself. So why did you hop on board?
Well, honestly, I'm just a huge advocate of fruit. I'm a big apple guy.
Pears,
bananas,
watermelons,
the occasional grape or two.
Huge melons
For days.
Huge tracts of land. Monty Python reference.
So when Matt brought up the whole Eat the Fruit thing, I was just on board right away. No, not really, but
you weren't on board right away?
I was not. No,
he took some time. Trevor's very indecisive.
To be, seduced into this, but both Matt and I are fans of podcasts. Anything from Joe Rogan to news podcasts and stuff.
Jordan
At least
Peterson.
Jordan Peterson, the man, the myth, the legend.
Sway in the morning.
The Breakfast Club, all that good stuff. So when this opportunity kind of came up, or first of all, we just thought of it like, hey, we should do a podcast. And that idea was kind of in development for the past 3 months or so. And it just sounded like a great way. We really enjoy conversation. We really value talking face-to-face with other people. And that is this format. I mean, we're just having a conversation, no breaks, just 2 guys talking. And I think people like that. People like the organic vibe of it. And we're here to deliver the goods. So
they call us FedEx because we deliver.
Always deliver.
That's our
rain or
MO.
shine, we are there.
Yes, even if the world is burning, we are going to be here at WJCT recording podcasts. Probably not. I'm going to be running for dear life away from the laser raptors that are going to get us. Not really. I don't think laser raptors exist, but there are
sharks.
Yeah, laser sharks.
Those are real, though.
Especially at Jacksonville Beach. Those things are just lethal. They'll get you. Take a little chunk out of your calf. Ooh, that sounds painful. But really, to put things in a broader cultural sense, we live in this age of innovation, especially on a technological level. And so you see a lot of startups kind of popping up all over the place. And so what Trevor and I are doing is not necessarily special in that sense. There's a bunch of our peers that are starting YouTube vlogs, or that are creating Facebook pages or Instagram accounts, or even podcasts like this. So our distinguishing factor, or the thing that we hope that really distinguishes us from everybody else, is kind of the whole theme of Eat the Fruit. And for the next couple of minutes, I'd kind of like to talk about the name, because the name really captures what we believe and kind of the season of life that Trevor and I are in, and that you're probably in as well. So as far as like the actual name, Eat the Fruit, that was just an idea that came to mind as we were just like throwing around, okay, what do we want the theme of this podcast to be? What kind of direction do we want to take? And we thought that Eat the Fruit was obscure enough to include a wide variety of topics and information, but it was also specific enough to give us some sort of direction. Mm-hmm. And Eat the Fruit is almost like this biblical allusion. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Genesis, which is the first book in the Old Testament, Adam and Eve are in the garden, and they're told that they can enjoy everything around them except the forbidden fruit. And as the story goes, they wind up being tempted by Satan and eating the fruit, and everything, the shit hits the fan is really what happens. Everything just kind of goes berserk. But needless to say, they eat this fruit and their minds are awakened to a new reality. And as much as we advocate healthy lifestyles and a strong nutritional intake, Eat the Fruit also has a symbolic meaning in the sense that we want to explore topics that are taboo within society. And that's where the tagline for Eat the Fruit really comes from: provocative conversations for a misunderstood conversation. So a lot of the things that we're going to be addressing are going to be provocative, and they will make us comfortable to some extent, and they might make you uncomfortable as well. But we're really looking forward to kind of moving past that discomfort into really discovering truth, discovering these realities that control the way that we live our lives, the way that we relate to people, and the way that we have fun. And we certainly want to be respectful of different beliefs, of different attitudes, of different lifestyles, but we don't want political correctness to stop us from really diving in. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, and really over the course of this whole project. We really haven't come up with a timeline as far as, okay, for the next 6 months we're going to record an episode every week. Things aren't that structured yet, but we do have a strong sense of kind of where it is we want to go as far as the content that we're creating, and so really just kind of exploring all these different aspects of life that are often swept under the rug is really, really important. But Trev brought up something that's I think equally as interesting, and that's this whole idea of conversation and how conversation can really change the world, because that's all Trevor and I are doing right now. We're conversing with one another, and we're simply documenting it with a camera and microphones. But Trev mentioned that a few minutes ago, and I'd like for you to, Trev, to kind of talk about that a little more. What has caused you to have more respect for conversation as you've lived your life? What kind of unique value do you think conversation and interacting with people has, and how does that translate into the kind of content that we're going to be producing in the upcoming weeks and months?
Yeah. Well, I think kind of going back to the the overall, the cultural reality that we live in right now, conversation isn't really valued. Long conversations, patience, things like that are required in having a, relationship where people are transparent, Those aren't really very popular these days, I would say. But if you do want to develop, good friendships and close relationships, these are skills that you're going to have to develop and work on. And I mean, as you know, in this age of just pretty much endless information, we have the tools and the knowledge to better ourselves in these ways and to develop ourselves. And what better way to do that than having this conversation that we're having right now, this podcast where other people can hear it. And we hope that two things, that you'll find this entertaining and funny, but also that it will inspire you as a listener to also kind of pursue this conversation. Because honestly, like when you're sitting here just talking, you're kind of, we're flowing off the dome right now, and you could say some, stupid things, or, you can sound foolish, or maybe share something that you didn't mean to share, but that kind of approaches the realm of like, okay, am I going to let this fear, stop me from having a good conversation, kind of sharing what's on my mind and my heart, or am I just going to, just back down and just be like a shallow friend? And ultimately, I've found, and I think most people would agree that, living a life where you only have friendships that are surface level or work level or whatever it is, and never really going beneath the surface with people in your life, you're going to find that you're going to be lonely, you're going to feel isolated. That'll affect a lot of other areas in your life. So maybe use this as an encouragement to kind of take that step, to kind of eat the fruit, and use conversation as a tool that can better your life and the life of people around you. Because I mean, people love talking. People love talking about themselves. They love talking about things that matter to them. We love talking. That's why we're here right now. And you can use that as a gift. As a tool to bring value to other people's life. And I know Matthew is definitely that's one of your mottos. I would say your life mottos: bringing value to other people's lives. And people appreciate you for that. And ultimately, you can be a good friend to a lot of people who need you. So while this conversation is just us, we hope that in turn we are going to be benefiting some people out there that we may not have met yet, or never will meet, or whatever. But at the same time, we just want to have fun, and that's what this is about. We're not trying to take ourselves too seriously. We're not the podcast professionals that you might think we are.
We are totally the podcast professionals. Do you see the size of this microphone? It is absolutely
be jealous,
nauseous.
But yeah, we're two college guys, probably in the same stage of life as many of the other people who'd be listening to this. And we're just like anyone else, and we want to create a safe space of sorts, where judgment really isn't a thing, where we can kind of just be open and be ourselves. And that's something that you can, I feel like, really be passionate about when other people are involved, and other people can find something good while listening to whatever conversation you're having. And hopefully that's what this is going to be.
Well, and that's really key too, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because we live in this age of public isolation. And so we're constantly around people and we're constantly interacting with people. But because we often fear rejection, we try to hide these aspects of ourselves that we think other people are going to find unappealing or unattractive, and thus they will reject us or they'll abandon us. And because of all of this, we begin to project this veneer. And so it's almost like we're our own representative of ourselves. And while that can be effective in attracting people, you can't just stop there. You can't just stop with attraction. You ultimately have to move on towards intimacy. You have to move towards this process of knowing and being known. And to do that, you have to place yourself in a position of vulnerability by being honest, by being transparent, by being authentic. And that's really scary. And that's really, really hard. And a lot of people do not have the courage to do that. And so what Trevor and I hope we do with these podcasts and with these conversations is to really inspire ourselves as well as our friends and our family members and anybody that is watching this to really kind of move beyond that veneer. Mm-hmm. And don't be reckless. It's not like you want to feed your pearls to the pigs, but I'm sure everyone has someone in their life that they can trust, at least in an ideal world. That might not always be the case. Trevor and I are extremely blessed in the sense that we have one another and we have other people that we can trust and be open and honest with. And I'm sure that you do as well. And so, we hope that you begin to connect with these friends on a deeper level. We hope to connect with one another on a deeper level by being honest and being transparent instead of continuing to just be okay with public isolation and be okay with just never really connecting on a meaningful and an intimate level. Because that's just so essential to who we are as human beings. Like, we're social creatures. We're relational human beings. And just like Adam and Eve, bringing it back to kind of this biblical reference, after Adam and Eve ate the fruit, the Bible says that they recognized that they were naked. And they felt shame because of that. They thought to themselves, man, like, there's something wrong with me. I'm naked right now. And so they covered themselves with fig leaves. And we still do the same thing now. We begin to become consumed with these feelings of shame. We think, oh, there's something wrong with me because this happened in my life, or I made this mistake. And we begin to cover ourselves up with fig leaves because we don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be abandoned. And that whole process becomes extremely destructive long term. Initially, it might foster feelings of attraction. Initially, it might get you what you want, but ultimately, it deprives you of this greater good. And the reason why Trevor and I talk about this is because we've experienced it firsthand. And so we think it's really appropriate and powerful even to begin to kind of make other people aware of this, because some people aren't. A lot of people just kind of like go through the motions, and it's easy, it's comfortable, but ultimately I think it leaves us wanting for something more. Yeah,
definitely. And speaking of people that we trust, we're going to bring Taylor Shrum.
T. Shrum.
The big Shrum.
Speaking of which, while you're talking, I'm going to send him a text to let him know that we're going to patch him in within the next few minutes. But before we do that, Dan Farina. Dan the man. Dan the man.
With the plan.
Yes. He is the real MVP, the real OG Pimp Daddy. You have seen his face on our profile picture for YouTube, so you guys are slightly familiar with him. He was not able to be with us today because he is working, but he's going to be joining us on future episodes, and we're excited to hear the kind of contributions that he's going to add because he just has a really unique outlook on life. He and I are brothers, so we've been together for the last 21 years. He is 22 months older, so much love to the big bro. About Dan. Dan the man, who is my brother. He's the third member of this team that we have assembled, and he will be joining us in future episodes, so we just wanted to clarify that. Taylor Shrum, which is a good friend of ours from Gainesville, Florida, where Trevor and I are both from, he is going to be calling in at 11:50, so that's going to be in 10 minutes. And so he's going to be joining us, saying a quick hello, just kind of chatting it up. We have done a lot of collab work with with Taylor in the past, and we will continue to be collaborating with him in the future. He and I actually did a podcast while I was in Dubai this past spring. So I was studying abroad there and was just looking for some different ways to kind of document my experiences, and we felt a podcast would be a great way to do that. And so that's kind of how this ball started rolling. We did that podcast, and that's actually on Taylor's account. You can check it out on YouTube. Taylor Shrum. The name of the podcast is the Give Dubai a Try podcast. Tons of fun, lots of great content, and very informative as well. We talked a lot about how Western culture compares to Eastern culture, and also how they're different. So I texted Taylor. He's supposed to be calling in at around 11:50, so that's in less than 10 minutes. So he's going to be joining us. But before we get to that, before we introduce T. Shroom, Trevor, what's life like for you here in Jacksonville? We really want to contextualize things for you guys. We want you to kind of learn more about us. That way you can get more comfortable. And so we feel like the best way to do that, at least on this introductory episode, is just to talk a little bit about our lives, so you know who we are, and in return, we hope that you tell us more about who you are. But Trevor, what's life like for you here in Jacksonville? Do you just go to the beach 24/7 and swim with all the laser sharks? Are you a glutton for punishment? Do you just work out all the time? What are you up to, dude?
Yeah, man. I mean, Jacksonville is a metropolis. It's a huge city. There's endless activities in a city like this. So, coming to Jacksonville as a small town country boy from Gainesville, Florida, which is where we grew up, it's definitely a little bit of a shock. The traffic isn't the most pleasant part, but the beach is definitely worth it. Balling out at the beach
with a capital B
with the females. And I actually just moved up here over the summer, and Matt and Dan had been going to school here. Matt had been going here for 2 years, and Dan 1 year. And if we haven't said it yet, we're all roommates, so we all live together. We really don't get enough time as roommates to hang out.
We never see each other.
So. As well as working at the same job, we have the same hobbies as well.
We are around each other 24/7
all the time, at least like 60 or 70 hours a week. But it's great. Jacksonville has just been a very positive thing. If anyone out there gets the opportunity to live with people that they really like and that they're friends with, definitely do it. Everyone needs a little tribe time in their life to have your little group. And it's a great thing. I think humans work really well in tribes, and community is something that's been lost. So if you have the chance to develop that, highly recommend it. It's a very pleasurable experience to my primordial brain. So
there's a little alliteration and a little fun fact for you guys as well. Jacksonville is the largest city in the U.S. by land area. And to give you guys a picture of how big Jacksonville is, to get from Gainesville city limit to the Jacksonville city limit takes about 45 minutes. So it's a real short drive. But then to get from the Jacksonville city limit to where we live, which our location is pretty central in Jacksonville, takes another 45 minutes. So to get from my house in Gainesville to our house in Jacksonville, it's like an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. But half of that time you're driving through Jacksonville, which for me is nuts, and it's been nuts for Trevor as well, since he just moved here, because sometimes Trevor has said that he's got lost driving, and it's really funny because he'll just like pop up in these random areas of Jacksonville that he never even knew existed, and the same thing happens to me. Like Trevor said, I've been in Jacksonville for the last 2 years at UNF, the University of North Florida, #swoop life, and I'll still get lost and just like pop up in these random areas. And I was like, I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville is absolutely huge. And the Jacksonville beach is a really popular scene, and the downtown scene is popular as well. And yet there's such a stark contrast between the two, because Jacksonville is a military community. There's a large base in the area. We're here in kind of like the Bible Belt or the South. And so it's very paradoxical. You go to downtown and things I would say are a little more conservative. That's just kind of the vibe that I've gotten. And then when you go down to the beach, as expected, much more relaxed, just kind of kicking it, shredding the gnar, and just enjoying the sunshine. But speaking of downtown Jacksonville, Pro Park. If you want to park like a pro, park like Pro Park.
Park with Pro Park.
Yeah, park with Pro Park.
And give us your money.
Yes.
Please, we need money.
Please tip us.
If you don't tip valet drivers, you're not a neo-Nazi, but you're almost that type of person.
Trevor is never bashful when it comes to
I give out titles.
Slapping labels on people.
Because I slap a label. If I give you a bad label, I'll never listen to you again. No, that's not true. I don't believe in that.
That's quite the opposite of what we believe in.
That is, yeah.
But if for those of you that don't know this, Trevor, Dan, and I, we all work at the Hyatt Regency downtown, and we're all valets there. And Pro Park is a company that the Hyatt, I guess, did a contract with, and so they're a separate business, a separate entity, but they're just a valet business, and so we work for them and we valet cars. But the way that we make our income is by tips, and so please tip us, or else we don't get to eat, and if we don't eat, we will die, and if we die, then we will not be able to make these podcasts, and the whole world will fall apart. So see, there's a method to our madness. It all comes together, and it all makes sense. But something else, too, that I think is really critical as far as addressing something in this first episode is this whole idea of creating a safe space. And so while Trev was talking about neo-Nazis and throwing titles on people and how that can be really unhealthy, we hope to use this podcast as a refuge. So we hope to really create a space in which people feel safe to share their thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Because the more that you begin to inject judgmental attitudes and kind of this condescending demeanor into your daily life or your conversations, once again, people are more apt to hide. Because they don't feel safe around you. So there's more of this desire to kind of like cover up all these blemishes in order to be accepted by this person that is a perceivable threat. But instead, if we're non-judgmental, if we're welcoming, if we're accepting, if we seek to understand instead of just trying to be understood, we really feel like that can cultivate brilliance, and that can inspire originality. Because instead of everybody thinking about, man, how can I impress Matthew? Or how can I get Trevor to like me? It's more just, hey, come and be yourself. And so there's less of a focus on impressing people, and there's more of a focus on being creative and all those different things that have really kind of pushed humanity forward. And so that's absolutely key. I haven't heard back from Taylor. It's 11:48, so if he doesn't call within the next few minutes, then maybe the new dog that he got ate him whole, if that's possible. The dog's not very big, is it?
It's a full-size dog.
Okay.
It's like a Labrador or something.
Well, maybe Taylor's Labrador ate him, and that's why he can't call in right now. If that's the case, we send our condolences to Taylor's family. We're sorry for your loss. I would like Taylor's projector. It is absolutely sweet. So if you can put that in the will, please do. No, actually, yeah, I do want the projector. I also want Taylor's intellect, because if we can just do a quick brain transplant too, that would be nice as well.
Yeah, one thing that we haven't brought up either is, I guess you'd call it our sister podcast of sorts. Taylor and our buddy Tyler, back in Gainesville, started making a podcast, a homemade one. I've watched like one or two of the videos, I believe, and it kind of, both of these podcasts were born from the Give Dubai a Try podcast, and I moved up to Jacksonville. We started this one, and then Taylor and Tyler are doing one as well.
I believe it's called The Spaces in Between.
Yeah, The Space in Between, something like that. So shout out to them. If you haven't listened to them, give it a try. Taylor is one of the smartest dudes I know, as well as Tyler. They're both very aware of world events and stuff like that. So if you're interested, please check them out for sure. We love you guys.
Yes, we do. #Illy. But that's the thing. Originally, we wanted to do a podcast together with Taylor, but because of geographical location, that wasn't going to be very feasible. Taylor and Tyler live in Gainesville. We live here in Jacksonville. And so it would have been too much of a headache to try to coordinate traveling every few weeks just to record an hour episode. So that's why we decided to create 2 separate podcasts. But as I mentioned before, we are going to be collabing with them, and it's perfect here in this studio because we can have those guys call in. So even though they can't be in front of the camera, even though you cannot see their beautiful faces, you will be able to hear their voice, which is just as important, especially for these conversations. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Something else, too, that we really want to mention, just because she's been so helpful, is Angie. Our good friend Angie from Canada is going to be editing all the video. She also did the intro and the outro for this. Great graphic designer. She did the banner and the profile picture as well. She is certainly an unsung hero with regards to all of this, and so we want to make sure that we show her some love. Angie, you're the best. You're the bomb. And just keep doing your thing, because honestly, you're crushing it, and she's helping us a lot. So she's also a part of the team too. And that's it. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a team to make a podcast like this. And so having Taylor, having Angie, having Dan, even though they can't be with us today, is still just amazing and really, really important. Moving forward with things, as far as the actual kind of format of this podcast goes, right now the episodes are going to be anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, just depending on what we are talking about and just how everything is going. Like we said, we really want to address topics that are considered taboo within society, and just different current events, just because that's so important to who we are, is really just kind of studying things that are going on in the world and going on in humanity. We really want our conversations to be lively, but also respectful, and so we really ask for that. If we have guests calling in, if you're calling in, or even here in the studio with us, we want to be mindful of that. And that's not to say that you can't express yourself. That's not to say that you can't be honest. Profanity is allowed. But at the same time, we wanna keep it 100, as Drake said. So I'm going to shoot Taylor another text real quick. We are going to have to start wrapping things up soon. But before we do that, Trevor, can you please explain your shirt to me, dude? Because I've been staring at it all morning, and I need to know what it's about.
I have no idea. Partially it's because I love dogs. So that's what attracted me to the shirt.
What does it say? Dogs? Dog days
are here.
Okay. Is that a band?
It's not. It's I got it from the outlet store of H&M for I think like $4. So that was my motivation in buying the shirt. Really cheap clothing is out there, and it looks good sometimes. So if you could find those two things intersecting, you'll find me there as well. So yeah, man.
Well, and speaking of dogs, Trevor has been very adamant about getting a dog for our home, and my feelings have been quite the opposite. I have not been eager to take on that kind of responsibility. Trevor has been quite persistent.
Matt just hates dogs.
I wouldn't go that far.
But you're almost there.
What happened to
far,
slapping labels on people? Dog hater?
Dog hater.
Yeah, that's pretty aggressive.
Animal cruelty advocate.
Well, I think this is what it ultimately boils down to, is I am a very clean person. Cleanliness is next to godliness. And I see this dog as an independent variable that will come into our home and chew up all of our shoes and take a dump on the carpet and piss all over our Xbox. And that just seems like a nightmare. And don't get me wrong, I love dogs, I love animals, I have nothing against them. But once they start coming up into your space, and it's like a child that can't talk. And so I just like they bring a tremendous amount of value. They're man's best friend. They're great companions, high energy, always happy to see ya. But if they're going to be messing up our flow, I think that's worth considering, and we certainly don't want to make any hasty decisions.
Yeah.
But we're not getting a dog. I'm saying that now.
We'll see about that. I'm working on them.
Trev's really laying it on thick.
I'm like the river in the Grand Canyon. Yeah, you might be a pile of rocks, but if I keep flowing, I'm gonna wear you down.
He's just gonna cut
millions
his way
of
right
years.
through.
Yep, right through.
Yeah, we better hope that they make some more advances on a technological level, because for you to be alive for another million years to try to persuade me, for me to be, well, if I die, then you can just get a dog. But
well, 2 words, Matt. Nanobots.
Uh-oh.
Yep. I'm gonna be a guinea pig for the next nanobot study, and I'll live for hundreds of years.
What are nanobots?
I don't really know. It's just like a science fiction thing. Maybe they go in to your bloodstream maybe and like fix your heart and your cancer, like cuts out cancer.
Well, this ongoing theme in entertainment is like when it comes to like preserving human beings, it is like people like lay down in these capsules, and it's almost as if they're frozen in time. And so you see all these movies where people get frozen in a spaceship for 100,000 years, and then they wake up when they're not supposed to, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, and then they don't wind up dying, and somehow they save humanity. So we'll check that out.
Well, hey, if we make enough money with this podcast, we can get cryogenically frozen when we're older, when we're about to die. So maybe we'll wake up in the future when they can heal people. And then we'll be able to revert back to our 30-year-old selves in 2500 or something.
That would be interesting.
And that'll be Eat the Fruit Podcast Part 2.
I feel like I'm really peaking right now, so I might just go freeze myself right now. And that way, in 500 years...
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
These knees, no, they're not going to last.
They're giving up the ghost.
Yep.
Well, Taylor hasn't gotten back to me, which I'm thoroughly disappointed about, because he was totally down about it earlier. But I'm sure that he had something come up. So, yeah, guys, this is about as good as it gets. Trevor Baldwin and I here holding the fort down. This is it. We spoke too soon.
How's it going?
Taylor, you there, man?
I've got 9 lives. And I've got 9 minutes.
Nice. That's exactly what we wanted to hear, because we have 9 minutes as well. We thought that your dog ate you, but I guess not, which is awesome because you are coming in clutch, my friend.
Thank you.
So we only have a few minutes, man, but if you just want to give us a little rundown about your podcast, we'd love to hear that.
Well, if you're looking for things that are both smart and funny, perhaps you're looking for a mate that is smart and funny, look no further than the people that you went to high school with.
Taylor Shrum, he's single.
If you're looking for a podcast that's smart and funny, I can supply the goods, and it sounds like you all can as well. So if you like Eat the Fruit, then you'll most likely also like what I'm doing over at Taylor Shrum channel on YouTube. So,
what's the name of your podcast, dude? Is it The Spaces in Between?
That's kind of what I'm doing when I'm interviewing people, and I'll call it that. But like for the most part, I like to just call like the hashtag TaylorWise, because that's what I've been doing, and just throwing myself in my backyard, talking that trash.
Are you doing it with Tyler, or are you doing it by yourself more?
I'm doing it with Tyler when I'm doing the interviews, and I guess it's kind of me and him, but he's available in a very limited amount of time, so I'm mostly doing it by just whenever he's available. So it's not as often as I would like, but it's all good.
Well, Taylor, as our guest and as our friend, we are going to put you on the spot and ask for a thought of the day. Since you just mentioned you're TaylorWise, I've been loving all the stuff that you've been publishing on Twitter. Lots of great thoughts to ponder and chew on. And I also noticed you've been posting some videos on YouTube too that kind of go deeper into that. So what's our thought of the day?
The thought of the day for me, I'm actually filming a podcast with Tyler today. So Tyler and his girlfriend Wanda, and we're going to be talking about the following, so it's very much the thought of the day. When the classical Stoic philosopher Epictetus was asked who is wealthy, Epictetus responded, "He who is wealthy is content." So that's pretty much what I've been thinking a lot about. Is the extent to which you're wealthy is defined by the extent to which you're content. And I think we're gonna dive into that on the podcast, but I'm sure you guys can have your way with it as well.
Yeah. Although being content is definitely pleasurable, I would say it definitely isn't fertile ground for ideas and and change. But yeah, we're actually about to wrap it up right now, bro. We just wanted you on the podcast. We wanted to hear your vocal cords vibrating and making words, and you thoroughly delivered in that aspect. And thank you for the thought of the day.
Definitely.
All right, man. Well, we will talk to you soon. We will be in touch. But once again, dude, thanks for calling in. Best of luck recording your podcast later on today with Tyler and his plus one. Please send our love, and I can't wait to do more of this.
Awesome. Sounds good. Hope you guys are having fun.
Oh,
Shout
we
out
are.
to NPR Studios.
Yes, dude.
We are.
We
All
are
right,
just
man.
living the dream.
All right. Take it easy.
All right, peace. All right, folks, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's all the time we have for today. This pilot episode has been nothing short of a major key alert, which means there will be many more to come.
Also, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. If you have a friend or family member or a favorite goldfish that would enjoy our content, please give us a shout out and share our information.
Yes, please do. We'll have our links for our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat posted below. So make sure that you slide in our DM or shoot us an email for suggestions on future topics. Once again, today was very casual. It was just kind of an introductory episode so you could learn more about us, learn more about who we are. But we also want to learn more about who you are.
Yeah.
So please contact us.
Yeah, please do. You guys are the real MVPs, so do not be bashful.
And until next time, Matthew Farina and Trevor Baldwin signing off.